I think this is the only film in the New York Film Festival that has credit for fawn choreography.
Yes.
Which we can come back to later, maybe. Maybe just to start, maybe would you talk a little bit about the beginnings of this film? Just, I think that this is obviously, there's probably lots of things that sparked this film, but maybe some things are kind of hidden a little bit and buried in the film mysteriously. So maybe you can talk about that.
Thanks for staying and for being here, everyone. The film started with Sal Salandra, the artist, that he makes these like paintings with thread. He calls them paintings, but they're needlepoint, I guess. And I saw one of his paintings at my friend Tony's gallery in the Lower East Side called Club Rhubarb. And I was really struck by them. There's like that really contrast, they're childish, but also very sexual. They're like, it's thread, which is not usually like, a technique done for something that feels so charged, I guess. Anyways, he's someone who like just very late in his career turned from like, very traditional like needlepoint to like sexual tableaus. So he's now 80. So I asked my friend Tony to go. I wanted to see him, to meet him. So I went with Rob, Rob there, who's does the sound, to his house in Long Island to interview him. But there was something in the questions and the answers that I was not getting what I wanted. It's weird when you interview an artist because you love the work, but maybe that person's not able to tell you why you like it. So I nothing wrong with Sal at all, but it was just I felt like my answers to what I liked about his work had to come from like a fiction that I created, not from that transaction. And then so it's basically started with Sal's work and also Li Bai's poems, this Chinese poem that I loved since I was a teenager. Yeah.
Maybe you could say something little bit about the structure of the film, which is obviously maybe one of the sort of more sort of destabilizing moments. And was that something that like you had in mind at first, or did that kind of come together later?
Yeah, no, I write first the title without knowing what the movie's going to be about. So in my mind, it was Drunken Noodles. I want to see a movie that's called Drunken Noodles. But that happened also with End of a Century and with After His Death. First the title, and then the movie, the story that I write becomes like, an answer or an approximation to an answer to that title, So I had Drunken Noodles, I had Sal's work, Levi's poems, and then I just started writing it the way the movie is. I wasn't broken up in the edit. It was just the way it was written. That's how I did it. I think that now in the distance, I do like that we don't know anything about the character at first, but then as the movie progresses, we understand him more, which is sort of the reverse where like I guess traditionally you want to see know everything about a character right away so then you can be with the story. But I sort of liked, playing with the reverse, and because of that structure, you're able to do it. It's not, we don't need to understand the past to understand the future. We can start with the future, not knowing why he's doing these things, and then once we start going to the past, the present changes in a way. I thought that was, but it's really how I wrote it. I didn't change it in the edit. Yeah.
Maybe that's a good place to bring Laith and Joel in. Maybe just could you talk a little bit about how you prepared for this at all, and maybe your own thinking about your own characters. And I think it's what's particularly striking is how well you convey this tension between attraction and also you're strangers to each other in a way, but there's also a connection in a way. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how you did that, how you kind of prepared for that in some way.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of preparation with Lucio specifically, it was a lot of conversation-based prep. Even because like when we first started talking about the project, like you didn't even have the finalized script or anything. So it was like we were just always talking and like, I mean, sometimes about the film, sometimes about other stuff. Building like kind of like a fraternity with each other, which ended up helping with the filming. But I don't know. I just think that Adnan is like a character that. I didn't feel like necessarily I was playing a character so much, or performing a character so much as like getting to the point with Lucio, understanding his interior world and like his emotional world. It didn't feel so much as a performance as like really just kind of like finding those moments and living it. And I think that really reflects in who and how Adnan is, because he's a quiet person. He observes a lot, he watches, he listens, and I feel like he usually waits to be invited to participate in these moments instead of like really leading the charge, which I think is really interesting because I think it relates back to this like quietness and in this kind of step back that he has. I think it reflects how Lucio is with the film in general and like the things that it's talking about in terms of like desire, the ephemeral nature of desire, and also I think a really important part of Lucio's films that he focuses on a lot is like just focusing on the quotidian moments and how those are important and how it presents an opportunity for like just reflection, which I think in real life we all pass up. And in this movie, there's so much opportunity for reflection. And Adnan, like, I mean, he spends all day reflecting when he's not, when he's not doing other stuff.
When he's not ordering food.
Yeah, when he's not. Yeah, exactly. I guess, yeah, in short, that's kind of how I was envisioning it. Yeah.
For me, in terms of preparation, I think it goes back to the writing. I feel like when I read the script, I don't know, there was the tone of it. I connected immediately, and then when me and Lucio talked about it, we pretty much agreed in everything in terms of what I was proposing, and in terms of originally the character was not Puerto Rican, and for me the character needed an accent, and we talked about doing a thicker accent than the one I normally have. And in terms of our relationship as Laith and Joel and the characters, we were completely strangers. We didn't know each other in real life, and when our characters meet, that's when us as Laith and Joel meet for the first time too. And so I think that helped. And also in terms of how Lucio works, we were talking about this last night. We didn't really rehearse at all. We just kind of like came prepared with our proposals and how we felt the scene was going to go. And I think that as an actor, that really helps with not overthinking or trying to hit this note, and just literally would be just show up to set, get dressed, let's do it. And I feel like that's where the magic and the connection happens, but also the writing.
I also wanted to add to that, like, that's something that I think was extremely helpful, especially in the first chapter and the second chapter. That element of, like, not rehearsing, I think helped so much because it really, like, captured that sensation of nervousness and anticipation and all these things that it just, like, I don't know, you didn't have to invent, you know, it was there. And I think that was, like, a really special approach to have. It was very helpful, yeah.
Yeah, it made it feel very grounded from the get-go, yeah, for sure.
Yegang, maybe you could talk about how costuming comes in as a way of building these characters. I think there's like very specific kind of touches that are really interesting about, I mean, maybe also just like they're accurate. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see Adnan every day, I think. And maybe just talk about that, but also you also have to make a fawn costume as well. That's also part of it. So maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, so when I was reading the script, you know, like I started thinking about each character, and, you know, I started building the mood boards and, you know, show it to Lucio, and we talked about it. But, you know, it was all shot around where I actually live. You know, I live in Brooklyn, and it was all shot around there. So I guess it was just my environment, and it's also contemporary. And I guess I have certain style that Lucio likes. So I was kind of projecting that into a Laith's character, Adnan, for the most part. And then for other characters, of course, like Joel is very specific, and everyone else, like for instance, Sal. I had a picture of Sal's, how he actually dresses, and we almost like asked him to send his own clothes, but the sizes were not matching. Like Ezra was much smaller, so we ended up
Ask him to mail his jockstrap.
Well, jockstrap, no. The boots and the pants. So yeah, each character was very different. And for Fawn, I've never made costumes like that before or built anything like that before. So I was kind of like, oh, how am I gonna do this? And then I ended up just getting fabric and draping over Guillermo and actually cutting and sewing and making them myself. Yeah.
You have 2 credits on this film. One is costume design, and one is in a completely different department, which is composition. And I wanted to ask a little bit about the music, which I think is a really striking and like it creates this sort of lightness to the film. And there's, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking constantly of, this is a deep cut, sorry, but I was thinking of Glenn Copeland. I'm not blanking on his name. Beverly Glenn Copeland. Thank you. But I was thinking, thank you so much. This is like, I should have written that down. Beverly Glenn Copeland somehow, but I don't know. But that's just like a one specific reference. But somehow this like kind of lightness that's almost like childlike in it that kind of keeps a kind of buoyancy in the film. And maybe you just could talk a little bit about the composition and the music.
Yeah, I think what you're feeling, that childness maybe comes from the piano, and piano is like, like maybe 80% of the score. I don't know. I wasn't really referencing anything, but I guess I was really into the script, and I don't know, just kind of improvised for a bit for each scene that we thought. Actually, I should say it's me and Robert Lombardo, my life partner and also partner in music making. We did the score together, so it's not just me. I just wanted to add that. But I am the pianist, so yeah, just kind of improvised and recreated that in like this Steinway piano that I inherited from my aunt. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there was any reference for those piano pieces, except actually Lucio had a reference for the scene where they're jumping off the cliff into the pool. So that was like proper piano sonata, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is new. I've never done this before. And yeah, I don't know, he really pushed me to do things that we've never done before, which I really thank Lucio for that. And then the rest of the score, the Delivery Guy song, Lucio also had a lot of references that he was hearing at home, like, writers passing by. And we also created that, like, which we've never done before, that sort of genre of music. And the fawn theme was the really most fun one, because I mean, the scene is just incredible and, I don't know, fantastical. And we were like, oh, how are we going to capture this? And I don't know, like, element by element, Rob had very conceptual ideas about it, using like voices and brushing dried grass to make that windy atmosphere. And then we kept building, and lots of synthesizers on it. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have a little time for some questions from the audience, and there is a microphone that is going around. There's one right here. Let's wait for the microphone so everyone can hear. And so that's on record. No, I mean.
Hello? Okay, so really, really good movie, really chill movie. I really like that, the chill energy. So for director Lucio Castro, I was really struck by how it's two different, you chose a very, you showcase the city of New York, and you showcase like, what is it, upstate? Then basically very nature, very pastoral view of the state. I wondered if that was a deliberate like contrast between city and nature. I wonder if you were showcasing how one is preferable to the other, how one is like is something as obvious like, oh, nature is peaceful, city is busy, or what more did you want to showcase by showing those two very different environments?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, the city parts, I like the idea of cruising spots as being like a place where like fantasy breaks. It's like that park in the city. It's my current park. I take my daughters every day. And until 8 p.m. it's like a kids' playground, but 10 onwards it's like a full-on orgy spot. And And I actually just found out before I made the movie, and we shot there, and people were like, and the Sniffies app, don't go. There's a movie shot there, So, but it is quite beautiful and poetic. The idea that this space in a city, in the woods, it's a park. It's like a little piece of nature, in the city that becomes this place that it's about desire and fantasy, and then like fantasy for kids too during the day. So I love that contrast. And then it was natural to also go to full-on nature, full-on nature upstate, and then full-on nature in China in a different time, for the last episode, like just breaking also space and time in a much more, I guess, bold way, or more, epic scale. But it was mainly just that contrast. And the locations this movie was made with what's available to me. So it's all friends' houses, locations that I know. I really wrote it knowing that I wanted to shoot it very fast with basically no money. So just I looked at the stuff that was close to me. Friends were in the movie, except for the actors. The actors I found through backstage, but most of them, yeah. All of them, or not all of them. One. But yeah, so basically, it's basically the idea of what's available to me was a really important part of how this movie came to be.
I think there's like a really, especially in this first sort of passage of the film, like there's a very specific sort of vibe of New York in the summertime when it's hot. All the people who own galleries are on vacation. All the rich people are gone, and there's just like this very specific kind of feeling where the city becomes sort of quiet in a way. And I wonder maybe kind of if you could talk a little bit about how you created that.
Yeah. And I was actually scared about that too, because I Williamsburg, it's like the most dense, ugly condo neighborhood in the world. So how am I going to make this, poetic, the super expensive, crazy apartments neighborhood, But I think through Bart Courtright, our amazing DP, who found light, and we found light and framing, through camera, we were able to capture that. And you're right, the emptiness at night. I love food delivery people. They are these like squads in the night that just roam around the city. They usually have masks on. I was just curious about them, and the movie I wanted to break that class difference, and this guy who's supposed to be, a student of art, just crossing into a different class, basically. I thought that was it feels like they operate in a almost like Metropolis, like in a different level in the city. But it's really beautiful, and the music too. That was in the script. The idea that when they pass by your bike, it's almost like a perfume of these really crazy beats, and it's gone. I also wanted to add that to the movie. But I just sit in the summer at night, and 2 summers, and yeah.
I think there's another hand right here. Yeah.
Okay, this is just more of a general question about a specific moment in the first part, the orgy scene where it's like, I guess, a bunch of still frames. I don't know, that was just very like striking to me, and I was wondering like, where did that idea to shoot a scene like that come from? Because it is a very, I guess, like novel take on a sex scene in that sense.
It's also totally silent.
It's totally silent. Yeah, it's totally silent. The scene, I wanted to shoot like that because I wanted to bring the tableaus, the paintings, also the aspect ratio of the film it's Academy ratio, which is it's the old Hollywood standard before TV came, so it's slightly more square, which is also similar to more paintings. They're not so rectangular. So I wanted to bring the idea of like painting to the sex scene, and they're not stills. They're actually slightly moving, which I also liked, and we decided with Rob, the sound designer, to keep it completely silent, just to make the room, just be more aware of the cinema or the people. It's you become more aware of also yourself in a way. That happens in a museum. That's like silence. It's like a construction of silence when you look at art that I think is quite interesting. And movies are always full with room tones and scores. So I wanted to have that moment to just be fully silence. There's not even room tone. It's just pure silence.
Joel even says this in the film that, there's no desire without someone sitting next to you. So this is clearly a very intentional way of like bringing this sort of presence of like a cinematic viewing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Could you say something about the ending? You said that Libai
So
is one of the threads for the beginning of the film, but this is where Adnan ends up.
Yeah, so Levi is was a Chinese poet from 700. I loved him since I was a teenager. His poetry, for whoever doesn't know him, it's almost like pre-self-help. It's basically just like, someone laying in the grass, like him laying in the grass, drinking wine, toasting at the moon, hanging out with friends, just being at ease. And it's really amazing that China, a country that really, enforces. I mean, work is it's very precious in China. People need to work, and there's this beautiful. I lived in China for 10 years, and there's really like amazing like effort and work is something that's really important. And I love that a country that believes in that it works so much also loves this poet that's really about not working. It's about getting drunk and basically high and being toasting with the moon and seeing old friends and just roaming the country. So I love for a movie that's all about this character always wanting things and being horny and desiring things. I wanted to end in like him being fine, looking at the sky, at the moon, at the birds, at clouds, at trees. There was something about that felt natural to me in a way.
Well, thank you for this beautiful and chill film. But yeah, it's a really lovely film, and we really appreciate you bringing it to us. So
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
And thank you all too.
Thank you.